Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I am Dr. 𝐼𝐚𝐲, your host. Happy Friday. It is 12:15 p.m. MST and 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 8:15 p.m. South African time. Hello, hello. I am seeing people are joining us.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us. Today we have yet another beautiful topic for you. It's a continuation of what we had here 2 weeks ago with Dr. T and my other guests. Let me know where you are. Let me know where you're tuning from. You type in here and let me know. And let me know if you can hear us. Please let us know. And just a reminder to our LinkedIn family. Unfortunately, LinkedIn and StreamYard, they do not allow it to basically pull up your comments at the end. We're going to pull up your comments. Again, hello everyone. Today we have a topic that is quite interesting, as you can see on our screen, how to overcome father wounds. I have Dr. T here, Dr. Tope Fajire, and basically Dr. Charles, I'm hoping he's going to join us. I think he's running behind a little bit, hoping he'll join us because we need a man here in this show right today. Dr. T, welcome. You guys know Dr. T.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Again, a big pleasure to be on your show, Dr. Onati. Thank you for the beautiful work you do, talking about those topics that most people don't want to touch and really confronting them and using that to really help men, women, and children out there. Thank you so much for the great work you do.
Thank you so much, Doc. You know what? You are one of my motivating people. You are my cheerleader. And of course, I learned so much from you. Thank you so much for being here. Again, to our viewers, welcome. Today we have our topic. Looks like everyone can hear us. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So basically, Dr. T, last time we talked about a mother wound. And I wouldn't assume that it's different from a father wound. We're going to share our personal stories here to our viewers as they watch us. Do you want to define what a father wound is? And then we can take it from there.
I'll say father wound is any sort of trauma that arises from the lack or absence of a father. And I use that word absence loosely because when we talk about presence and absence, most people may just think about being physically there, but absence can also be emotional. So when I talk about father wounds, we're talking about trauma inflicted on a child based on the lack of presence of the father or the father figure. And this could be physical or it could be emotional. It causes a lot of trauma, and this trauma could actually also be physical or psychological, and it has long-lasting impact on that child. So I'll stop it there so I don't spill all the beans in the first question. So any kind of trauma faced by an individual based on the lack of presence or the absence of a father figure, and not necessarily physical, but emotional absence as well.
You know what, Dr. T, I loved it when you said you want to use that terminology freely, because a lot of times people believe that when they have both parents, both physically there, sometimes it's either your dad is not really engaging with you. You know, we have people that grew up with both parents and they don't have any recall of how close they were or how involved their fathers were, in their lives. And I mean, it has so many layers. We're going to talk about this. As we continue, we want to welcome our dear friend here, Dr. Charles Odame Ankre. He is a dear friend. Dr. Charles is a scientist, air pollution scientist, and he also leads Ghanaian Calgary, our city here, Calgary Ghanaian Association. He's doing amazing work. He's also a father. I thought we should bring someone like him to the show because he is the father of the association in the community, and also he's very involved in the community with other organizations too. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you very much. How is your day going, Dr. T? Hi. Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you too, Dr. Looking forward to an exciting time. This is such a very important topic, and I'm waiting for us to unpack for our listeners to learn, grow, and heal.
Yes, I love the healing part. Dr. Charles, we talked about, Dr. T actually just described to us what a father wound is, and or basically trauma that is inflicted on a child when the father is not there physically or emotionally. And I loved it when she said, I don't want to necessarily say only emotionally. I mean, a lot of times a father could be there physically and yet he is absent.
Yes.
Not involved. So I would
Absolutely.
like, I want you to share your thoughts about this topic. I know that your dad left you when you were young, and you're
Yeah.
such an amazing dad to your kids. So
Yeah.
tell us, what is the source? How did you give out this secret sauce for you? How was it not growing with your dad around? Who took over?
So father wounds, when you look into it, it describes the absence of a father figure. So it's not necessarily the presence of a man in the house. I think we need to clarify that. A man can be physically present in the house, but he is absent in the raising of their children. So their children will only know that daddy is at home. Beyond that, they don't know daddy. Beyond that, daddy do not know them. That develop a certain aura of father wounds. There are some that their dad, like myself, passed away at a very young age. But I
Hmm.
want to share you something with you. When my dad passed away at that age, my mom will always make a reference to my dad when she's dealing with us. She will always. And she was young. I wanted her to remarry because there were some fine gentlemen coming her way. And guess what she said? She said, I do not want to risk the good memories I have with your dad.
Oh,
So she never remarried. So it kind of paints a deep picture of a father who never left our lives,
Hmm.
wow.
although he passed away.
That's
Okay.
powerful.
So
Right.
father wounds develops from the absence of a father figure, not the absence of a physical man present in a child's life. So, and when we look at it from that perspective, we begin to um, unpack what creates these wounds. And I know we will get into that.
Dr. Charles, you were
Wow.
blessed. You were blessed. I'm going to share my own story here. I didn't grow up with a father. And unfortunately, we come from an African perspective. We're Africans. You do have uncles, but are they really there for you?
Yeah.
Emotionally, are they there for you to guide? I didn't get that. I mean, I was raised mostly by women. As I was surrounded by powerful women,
Yes.
my mother, my grandparents, and, you have all this beautiful extended family units, your cousins. And the
Yep.
interesting thing for me, I didn't have a moment to look around and look at where's my dad, because my cousins too didn't have their dads around,
Yeah.
right? But you don't realize this absence of a father because you are
Correct.
growing in this loving and a beautiful home, but you don't realize till it hits you at a later stage when you're an adult where you're gonna choose a partner. I'm gonna get to that. So
Yeah.
tell me, Dr. Tope, you told us last time you were here that you grew up in a polygamous family. How was it for you sharing your dad with
Right. So I
two
think
families
here
or
we
three
also have
families?
to look at thank you so much, Dr. Nancy. I think we also have to look at the cultural perspectives, especially for us from the African subcontinent. The man, as we all know, the father is the powerful one. He's the one who does all the provision. Gone were the days, I mean, those days women did not really work. The man had the final say. His own father probably had a lot of wives. The probably didn't have a voice. So growing up in a polygamous home, I would say my father was physically present. And to him also, he was probably emotionally present, but that emotion was culturally not something that was exhibited or manifested. So he will give us shelter, he will buy us gifts now and again. He might not call you to say, oh, what do you want to study in university? How are you feeling today? Because culturally, that was unacceptable. And not unacceptable, that was not,
It was
it
not,
wasn't it wasn't
yes.
practiced. So I would say my father was there, definitely physically, and to some extent emotionally, based on the cultural beliefs and practices in my country at that time. Of course, over the years things have changed. Your father barely spoke to you, except you were naughty and you needed a big bad slap, and that was the only way they communicated with you. Did
Wow.
that mean they didn't love you? Did that mean they didn't care for you? Did that mean they would protect you? Of course they would. But culturally, we had that. It was almost like handcuff, where their fathers didn't do that to them. So it really wasn't a big deal doing it for their kids.
Right,
Exactly.
right. You
Yeah.
know what? Last time you said something about as we are healing from these wounds, we need to look at the perspective.
Yeah.
Where did your mother or father come from? What background did she come from or he come from? And you mentioned that they could never give what they didn't have.
Mhm.
You guys want to unpack that? Because as we speak today, people are very angry at their fathers who are resurfacing right now in their adulthood. And we're going to unpack that piece too. And people are very distant from either probably their paternal side of the families. Where were you when I was young? You know, there's a lot of that trauma and anger, which is understandable. But how do we heal from this? Where do we go from here? Do you guys want to unpack that piece? Because it is very common multiculturally. We see it in this culture too.
Yes. You see, there is an unintended victim of marital misunderstanding. And unfortunately, that is the children. You see, in our quest to seek our own happiness, our own freedom from maybe potential bondage we find ourselves in, which is the marriage, that maybe it's not working, we act unintentionally to address our own issues, but we do not realize that through that interaction, there are other human beings who have to be considered as part of the solution. So you will see men who would disconnect from the woman, and as a result of their anger towards the woman, extend it to his own children. His DNA runs in these children. Okay. And in my culture, there is a saying, and the day I heard it, I was angry. So, oh, don't worry. When they grow, they will look for their father. Okay. When they grow, they will look for their father. And also culturally, you cannot function well in society without a father figure. If you're going to get married, you need a father to walk you down the aisle. So fathers became an indirect, powerful characters that you cannot just ignore when you grow up. And they know this. So it becomes a vicious cycle where my dad did this to me, my dad wasn't present, I'm also not going to be present. They walk away. Not because they hate their children, but it becomes a vicious cycle. And in the process of dealing with the woman, getting the woman to comply, we hurt our own children so deeply. Okay. There are people who have lost their dads and still grieve over I don't know whether to use the word wickedness, the weakness of their dads towards them. Because they felt that this man had an opportunity to make it up to them. Somebody to look up to, somebody. You cannot call anyone else your father in this world. It is only that man. And it's such a noble thing that we men should not play with. I will go on the other side now, hand over to Dr. T.
Thank you.
In the same fight for freedom, the women also do the same exact thing that the men will do, preventing the men from getting access to their own children as a punishment for the man. Okay? Remember, the woman is not punishing the children to her. She's punishing the man by depriving him of his own access to his own children. And guess what you do in the process? You end up damaging your own children. Because in the process, you will directly or indirectly begin to unpack certain messages to the children. Ignore your dad. You don't need your dad. I have enough. I am working. I can afford it. You don't need a man. And you bring this into your children. So when it's time for them to make life decisions, that keeps coming back. My mom keeps telling me, I don't need another man. I don't need a man. I am self-sufficient. And marriages fail, relationships falter, because that is your guiding principle in life. Dr. T.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you so much. That's just so awesome. And you're so correct. Parents especially should not use their children as pawns. And this is something I actually discussed in my book, Still I Write. Having raised my own child in a single parent family, the father unfortunately was both physically and emotionally absent. And I had to deal with that. You know, so I think the big lesson here is that we should divorce our own emotions, our own feelings, our own hurts away from the children. And just backtracking a little bit, I was able to kind of find 4 categories. You know, we doctors, we kind of like to break things down a bit. Where I've grouped absent fathers into 4 categories. The first category is men that are physically and emotionally absent. So they are just not there. Physically, maybe because of death, unfortunately, or just because they weren't interested. Unfortunately, some women get raped and get pregnant under weird circumstances. So unfortunately, for that kind of person, you would have a biological father that is both physically and emotionally absent. The second one, we can have a father that is physically present but emotionally absent, and that we've explained in some African cultures. While they're there, but they're just emotionally disconnected from the kids, either because they don't like their mother, so the kids have to deal with it, or due to any other reason, just say, oh, you are from the stubborn wife, I don't want nothing to do with you. The third category are those that are emotionally present and physically present, and I think that's the gold standard. To have a father that is there for you all the time, both physically being there as a person or even a father figure, and emotionally being there to listen to you, to hold you up, to support you. And of course, the fourth one is what I haven't said, which I don't really know. So absent, present emotionally, but absent physically. And that happens now when men have to walk away, when men have to work abroad. For example, you might find that, there are time zones that are limiting them, so they can't really physically be in the home, but you find that they're playing a lot of emotional role, a lot of emotional support for the wife and for the children. Now, let's face it, if we look at those three topics, apart from the gold standard, which is physically and emotionally present, the children will be left with wounds. They will be left with hurts. You can imagine the teenager that has a basketball game and the father cannot be there because he's not alive, he ran away, or he's just physically not there. So the key thing is now finding what category we all fit into, identifying the hurts that we've had to deal with based on any of those categories, and now we can talk about healing.
Yes.
Wow. Can I share my story? You know what? It's such a beautiful explanation you guys shared. And like I said, and now you grow and then you leave home, because now you're going to be an adult. You start school. You start university. And of course, once you are there, you are finding yourself. All right. You're finding yourself. I remember actually when I started dating them, my friends used actually, these wounds, guys, you don't realize how affecting they are, even with your choices. I said it yesterday. My friends used to say, Snatty, when you are dating, you have a V graph. We used to play and used to tease each other. I would say, why? They said, you would be happy and then boom, it's gone. And unintentionally, unconsciously, when things went rocky, I would run fast. So unconsciously, you are in this relationship, but you are already having all these negative thoughts or anything that could go wrong here. You want to run fast because you don't want to go back there. You don't want to go back to those wounds. And you are unconsciously choosing this without realizing it. What awakened me, it was the last person I was with before I met my husband. And it was actually an interesting finding. I got this psychology book, and this psychologist was describing these wounds, both parents, mother and father wounds. And she explained that when you continuously go around in your life, attracting these people that are emotionally, we just described it, Dorothy. You are attracting emotionally unavailable men or women, if you had that experience and you are not realizing it. You are thinking that you are going around, you think you're on top of things, but you look really on your pattern of relationships. I attracted the same person in different people. Can you say something there, Dr. Charles? Until I read that, and until when I got married and my husband, I had our child, I was pregnant with our son. Again, my story went back there. I was insecure. And I had worked, bless my mother, who worked on our self-esteem, but it's not enough. I needed that father figure I never had. And now this story again comes back, it shows up. Like I said, father wounds, until you go back, the books are not enough. We need to go and unpack these stories. And I started becoming insecure. I started wanting to know where he is. Something I was never. And he said, darling, what's going on? Thank God for him. He sat me down and said, "You are not yourself. You
Yeah.
are different. You need help." The first psychologist appointment I had was when I was pregnant with my son. It
Yeah.
was the most life-changing experience for me.
Hmm.
This man sat there and asked, I told him my story, and he said, "Where's your dad?" I didn't realize how deep my wounds were. I started
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
Dr. Nati, you were exhibiting what in some books you say is called generational father wounds.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so it could have been transferred. For all you know, it could have transferred from your fourth generation before you
Yes.
down the
Yes.
line to grandma, to mommy, and now to you. And guess this, the risk you will then send it to your children.
Hmm.
See,
Yes.
the
Yes.
most deadly wounds are the generational wounds because and if you go religious, they will say, "Oh, this family is cursed never to get married." No, it's wounds that are being sent down because the mother sends down her wounds to the children, and
Of
so the
course.
child grows up looking for the monster in the man. So
Hmm.
no matter what excellent husband she gets, she is wired to believe that this guy is supposed to be a monster.
Absolutely.
Just like mommy described.
Describe.
Why
Right.
why is he not that monster? And so guess what? She will begin to act, behave, provoke until the man starts showing that monstrous behavior for her to feel loved.
Hmm.
Oh, Doctor, you know what, Dr.
Powerful.
Charles? I will always be forever grateful to the man God blessed me with. I always tell my kids, I say, "You guys are so blessed. You have an amazing father and who is present physically and emotionally." My mom honors,
Yeah,
and she worships the grounds my man walks in, because this man is present in his
right.
children's lives. Something
Yeah,
that was foreign to me. I'll forever be grateful. All right.
absolutely.
And until we that are struggling with these wounds, we look at ourselves. And the deepest pain you can ever experience as a person is when you look at yourself in the mirror and ask who you are. And
Yeah.
after that book and after that psychologist experience, there's something, we are Christians in my family.
Mm.
There's something I had to come into conclusion. I said, "Lord, one thing I need to realize is in this world, you use a woman and a man to bring a child to this earth."
Correct.
I had that honest conversation with myself. And I said, "And I know that you are the father." When I got to understand that, for me, it worked for me. That was a light bulb effect for me. And I said, as such, and when I connected with my father, such a lovely man, he had his own demons he was
Yeah.
dealing with in his own marriage.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to go back to what happened to them. They were young kids. I was a teen pregnancy at 20, right? Young kids. My mom was finishing a high school and he was finishing his teaching college education. They are young, and now that I understand mental health, there's a lot involved in that. And when
Yeah.
people split, they move out and move away, right? When I got to that point and forgave my dad, and actually, again, I had to make a conscious decision of forgiveness. I had to do it. And I reconnected with him and I listened to his story. There's something Dr. T mentioned, that you need to understand where your mother or your father is coming from.
Mhm.
When I listened to the story, and I'll always forever bless my mother who never said a negative word about that man.
Hmm.
She never did.
Dr. Nati, I want you to stress that part because that is where the propagation of the wounds come from.
Yes.
When the parent you trust, see, the
Yes.
parent you trust for perspective gives
Yes.
you a certain direct or indirect negativity about that figure.
Yes.
Remember, you revere that figure in your heart, and
Hmm.
Yes.
you will revere that figure for the rest of your life. So
Yes.
Absolutely.
the very moment you are tuned to hate that figure,
It's difficult.
that's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
I really agree with that point of view that, we should not plant those evil seeds in our children. Another thing I say, look, not all fathers are perfect. Not all mothers are perfect. So fathers have made mistakes as well. But one thing I always say is let the children make up their mind about the personality of their father.
That's
That's
it.
not your job. That's not for you to project upon them because of your personal relationship that didn't go well, that went sour. let the children make up mind that,
Yes.
oh, this man was there for me or he was not there for me. Let that be their decision when they're old enough. So I just want to say that out here now for all single moms out there, all single dads that are hurting one way or the other. Let the children make up their minds and don't use their children as pawns on a chessboard to win the game.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You know what? You go ahead, Dr. Charles.
Yeah, Dr. T
Yes,
has
go.
just nailed it. She just nailed it right off the bat, because you see, forgiveness for the sake of your children is key.
Yes.
Things didn't work out. Let everyone be.
Hmm.
But remember that whatever decision that you make, there are human beings at the center who will suffer for the consequences of that decision that you are making. So if it's going to be a decision of getting these children to love you more than they will love the other person, if it is a decision to let them see the man through your own lens, the way you see that man, you are doing a big harm to these children. I read a book where the girl talked about how the mother used her as her counselor at age 14. And she did not realize the damage that was being done to her until she grew up. She realized at that moment she was not ready to deal with all the adult problems. But the mother was trying to use the child as point of comfort. Like, do you know what happened? This is what your dad told me. This is what your dad has done. This is giving the graphic details of the divorce, how nasty it is to a 14-year-old girl.
Dr. Charles, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
All right. You and I, we talk about how single parents find themselves finding solace in their children. And we see this a lot. Women finding solace in their boy children.
Yes.
Finding that male figure, that partner they are looking for.
Yeah.
And you wonder why today, when you look at young men today, when they are dating or they are marrying, and this is not to offend people who choose a certain age. I'm not talking about that specifically, but this specific men, when now the time is right, they are ripe for maturity, because it takes 25 to 27 years to mature our brains. Imagine at 14, you're a boy or girl, your mother or your dad keeps feeding you all this information that is for adults. And without knowing, or out of her loneliness or his loneliness, or let's rather use mothers this time because we're talking about dads, out of her loneliness, out of her need, because everyone needs love. People want that companionship. And then you start sharing and you start having this pseudo relationship with your son child. You expect your child to look out for you, and you are doing this unconsciously. All right. Correct. You are doing this. I see this a lot, Dr. Tope, in practice, where single women who are raising these boy children. And now you wonder, when these young men, when they are ripe for age to date or marry, they're looking for older women. They're looking for mothers in relationships. And now women are stuck with boy children. They are stuck with actually kid adults. They have this man who is their husband or their partner, but this man is immature. He's going back to the stage when he was 14, when he was never allowed by his mother to grow up as a 14-year-old. Quickly, she matured this young boy to be 28 and deal with her problems. We need to be careful with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Having an honest conversation is key. And realizing that when you have a problem, children are not a solution to that emotional problem, but seeking help is very, very, very important. Because, as I said, you want to raise emotionally intelligent children. You want to raise kids that can decipher problem, deal with the problem. The world is tough out there. There's no softies out there. But letting these children know that as you're growing, you will meet good and bad people. You experience some of these things. Maybe I am not lucky with your dad, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna also face the same problems. These are things to avoid. These are things to look out for. Having that vulnerable conversation from a point of care, not just a conversation, but acting it out as well. For them to know that your grievances, you're not seeking solace from them to be a solution to your problems. You want them to grow to be independent adults and think for themselves. It's key. So if we're talking about healing and another big source of father wounds, it's coming from there, where sometimes we unintentionally act out, and the children learn from that, and then they never grow. They grow with fear in their hearts.
Yeah.
They never want to be that man. It's a boy child. He never wants to grow up to be that man that the mother described.
Hmm.
How can he even do that? Nobody taught him. So he goes into a relationship hurt, injured, with
Yes.
no directions. And these
Yes.
are real problems that we need to be vulnerable enough and be conscious enough to avoid exposing our children to.
Absolutely. And I think really, especially for people from our part of the world, sub-Saharan Africa, no, we need to deflect and change our focus from using our children as our therapists, because there is help available out there. If we're struggling with anything emotionally, the trauma, no, our kids should not be the solution. We should go to people that are trained, and we should not be ashamed to do it. We should not be ashamed to speak up. We should not be ashamed to say, look, this is my hurt. I'm dealing with this. So, I mean, your children may not charge you any money to speak with you for an hour or two, but they're not equipped to do that. So don't put them in a situation that's going to be even more traumatic for them down the line. There is help available. And my recommendation is, if any woman or man is struggling out there, seek the right kind of help. Don't pull your children into the already muddy, waters that you're dealing with. Seek professional help. There's help available to heal yourself.
Yes.
To be a better person forward.
Yes. You guys are talking about emotional intelligence and raising assertive kids, because, like you said, the templates we get home is what we are sent to the world with. And like you said, we have to be intentional parents. All right. We have to do this intentionally. Let's talk about, what is your advice to a woman who the father left and is raising these children? Because at some point she's gonna be ready, basically emotionally, would want to engage in a relationship or want to get married. There's an issue of stepfathers. When do they introduce this man to the kids? Because that's a big one. I know it is a good day.
If I can just take that question, actually, there's a chapter of my book dedicated to this. The first thing, like I said, is make sure you're taking care of your children. You don't use as a single mom, don't use or dad, don't use your child as your therapist. When you decide to date, don't rush your children into just taking any single man you just met last week. Don't bring him into your house to say, oh, this is your new daddy. And 2 months down the line, the relationship goes south, and then there's another new daddy and another new daddy. It gets very confusing. Only get your children to meet this new date when you know things are serious enough. And when you know that this man understands that you have assets. Someone was telling me recently, don't call your single children like baggage or liability. They are assets, either from you or from him. Let him know that this is my asset. I have this beautiful daughter, or I have this beautiful son. Will you be willing to accept? Is this something that we can walk around? And then you can gradually get them introduced and let them also know. So, that this is me, this is my life. I'm a healed person. It's not about your dad or your mom that left. It's about my independence and my joy. And the other thing I always say is, we should let our children fly. Even if they fall, we should let them be. We should let them go. They want to hang out, they want to move out, whatever it is they want to do. We'll pray for them, we'll be there to support them, but we should just get our muddy hands out of their business. Because that's also going to help us to grow. It's also going to help us to date. It's also going to help us to start a new life once again. So protect your children, introduce to them at the right time with a serious relationship, and make sure you give them some level of independence so they also don't feel threatened by this new person.
Yes, that's another topic for another day, Dr. T.
Go
ahead, Dr. Charles.
You see, when you're a single parent and there's a relationship developing, you should be emotionally intelligent to know whether this person likes children or not. Your children are your investment. They are your legacy. They are part of you, and you cannot dump them. So if this person is coming into your life, I don't care how long the person is going to stay, and that person does not recognize that beyond Odamiankra are my two kids, and they are inseparable. Although we are two, it's part of me. Then why are you even bothering yourself in the first place? Because it is different from when you were single and no children. That's a different era.
Yes.
See, so we need to recognize that the era is not the same.
It's
So
not.
the dating rules have shifted. So and if a man comes in, he can come in and he realize that he's keeping a distance, maybe for a good reason, and you watch, and through indirect conversation, you realize that this guy might not be open to an idea of stepchildren. You need to be emotionally intelligent, and I mean, sometimes we need to sacrifice something for these children,
Yes.
because then you're going to introduce another source of potential harm to your children.
Yes. Dr.
You are
Charles,
you are
hold
dealing
it
with
there.
one, you
Hold
are
it
dealing
there.
with
Okay.
one,
You go
yeah,
ahead.
and you are bringing another one, and you can see the signs already. Why you even go? And that's why I agree with Dr. T. Be careful introducing anyone to your children.
Yeah.
And you need to let your children understand that you have your own life to live.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need to let them understand that hey guys, you have your life to live, I have my life to live, you are my children, I am your mom or I'm your dad. We all have our lives to live. So there will come a time that somebody may come in my life or not. And when the time comes and I start seeing this person, I start going out and start dating, it's normal, it's okay. Don't feel threatened, don't feel guilty. You see, sometimes we underestimate the intelligence of our children.
Yes.
We don't have these honest conversations with them. You need to engage them in this conversation so that when somebody comes along, you realize this person is for real. Sometimes you can even have a male friend or a female, like a friend who is like not sexual per se relationship, but a friend, somebody you revere in a community, that you can indirectly let them become a father figure for these
Yes,
children.
absolutely.
That you
Yes.
can reliably call, uncle, I'm going
Yes.
through this. Uncle, I need somebody to talk to. You can develop that trust based on how you know people. All these things, care must be taken to develop it for the children so that they know that beyond mommy, there is somebody else they can talk to for some kind of a social safety.
Absolutely.
And it's very critical.
I loved it. Dr. Charles, you mentioned the last piece I was going to add to that, and you just read my mind. The importance of introducing a non romantic partner to the children is the
Yeah.
best approach when you are single and not yet married or remarried or whatever, because there's consistency there. All right. And like you said, someone in the community, like in your organization, you do have people that you watch. You are doing all these events. You can watch this man's values, his principles, who he is, how he's relating to his children. And sometimes they don't even have kids, but they have big heart. And but also we also advise women to be careful who they bring to their kids' lives, because we've seen it, or we see it every day, where stepfathers come into, how many times, Dr. Tope, we see young women or now
Yeah.
older who shared they were molested by their
Yeah.
stepfather.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The
Exactly.
uncles that the mothers send them to for that father figure. So women need to use and exercise that emotional intelligence of, who am I dealing with here? Who is this man that I'm sending my child to or my
Mhm.
children to? So I had to touch on that one. Do you want to say something to the topic?
We should also educate our children around that for sure. That no
Yes.
matter who it is, whether it's uncle, auntie, whoever it is, no one has the right to do anything to you. And if anything happens, you must let me know. So preempt them. Tell them
Preempt
up
them.
front. And know that you must tell me. And
Yes. And
oftentimes
also
that
mention
really
that
equips
trust.
them. Yes.
Yes, trust, because sometimes we find women, I'm not sure if they are probably in denial of what's happening in front of their eyes. Suddenly, they don't believe their child. I've seen
Yep.
people today who are still dealing with the father wounds, either from a stepfather, whoever was a father figure. My mother didn't believe me, mom. I mean,
Yep.
doc. My mother did not believe me. And I honestly think that is not true.
Yeah.
It's denial and not accepting what is playing in front of you. And of course, some may be also coming from their own traumas. Like you said, Dr. T, last time, that where is your mother coming from? What background she has? She probably has her own undealt traumas she's never dealt with. And
Yeah.
us coming from our culture, who went for counseling back in the day? Who did? Our mothers never went. So
Exactly.
whatever trauma they went through, so like Dr. Charles is saying, these traumas are basically sent into us in utero. We come to this world with all of this. So it's up to us to reparent. I didn't even know that I was reparenting myself. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I said, do you want a life to raise children and have something different than you grew
Yeah.
up with? I said yes. And then I needed to do something different. Forgiveness came first. As I was praying to God for the right partner for my children, I didn't have at the time. I wanted an open heart and a clean heart for me to move on. And that was the best decision I ever did, because I said, Lord, you had used my parents to come together and be here. And I
Yeah.
should be grateful for that. And
Yeah.
I need to reparent and also accept that things went that way. And actually, I only realized when I was 27 years later, and the beauty of me not have connected with my father. Sometimes God protects us in situations. That's
Yeah.
one lesson I found for myself.
Yeah.
And when I found out that time, I said, Lord, you are really alive. So for me, that was the closure. I found it at 27, my closure. So
Yeah.
some people, it comes at 50, some comes at 70. Recently, I had a patient who actually grew up with both parents. He shared his painful story, guys. He said, I reconnected with a long lost friend. When we were 13, I remember, Doc, it was a very painful time of my life. My parents were fighting. I had an alcoholic father who used to come home and beat our mother up, and sometimes would beat us up. We would be happy when our dad would come home. But when I reconnected with this invite, I saw this invite. This man is in his late 60s. He said, I saw this invite. This is a boy. They lived in the same area who was the friend. He said, I was in tears the whole week. I broke up. My wife was asking, what is wrong with you? His wounds, they were there embedded. We
Embedded.
don't bury the seeds of pain.
True.
They were there embedded. He said, I didn't realize how wounded I was. I was taken aback to myself when I was 13, because that man now reminded me of the pain we went through. We were living with in that same area. So
Yes.
we had to go through that therapy, and I had to send him somewhere. So these wounds really, they affect us.
Yeah.
And in the choice, let's talk about, you guys, let's talk about the choice. I said it in the beginning, how people with these wounds, you tend to choose your father.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something about that, Dr. T?
I think Dr. Charles has something to say, Dr. Charles.
You go
You see-
ahead. Sir.
You see, when you have these wounds embedded in you, and as you said, it's like a seed. Or there, it's just waiting to germinate. So the very moment you have the right conditions, it will just germinate and blossom and take over you, because you have become fertile for such wounds to fester and grow. Now, I want what is the I want to talk about the nature of these wounds, and then look into what leads you to, because Dr. Unati, you said something that you attract the very thing you don't want.
Oh, yes. You attract
Okay.
exactly what you attract your father. A
You
lot of
attract
times,
your father.
because he was never there
Why?
emotionally.
Why? Why do you?
You are unintentionally and unconsciously attracting unavailable man.
Man, so
Till you break
the
that.
first thing is you grew up with a wound of neglect.
Yes. Yes.
You grew up with a wound of absence.
Yes.
You grew up with a wound of abuse.
Yes.
You grew up with a wound of control.
Yes.
You grew up with a wound of withholding and you feeling unworthy.
Yes.
You feel that I'm nobody. Nobody loves me. So guess what? In your checkbox, I'm not going to allow any man that will come into my life to neglect me. Check. Okay, this guy is not neglecting me. Check. Absence. I'm not marrying a man who is not present. If he has a job in another town, he's off the list. I'm not doing this again. Check.
Yes.
Abuse. Okay. I want a man that is mentally, physically, and very spiritual. I want him to be present. Check. I want a man who will not control. I want a man who will not withhold his love from me. But guess what? These are attributes that you will never see from my nice jacket. Okay? You won't
No.
see it from my nice jacket. I'm going to appear gentle, sweet, talk you, and down the line, you will begin to see the real me. And you realize that this is
Work.
because in your check, maybe if neglect was not on your checklist, you will be ready to work with me. Charles, you've been neglecting me. I don't like that. Can you work on it and get better? Because you're ready to work with everything.
Yes.
You don't have a checklist. But because you have built that checklist in your mind, you are Anybody who does not fall in that checklist is out. But guess what? That could be the nicest husband that you've driven away.
Absolutely.
And the guys who will come gentle with a suit, maybe that guy is the most abusive man you would ever meet. Maybe that man who can pray with you over the phone, it will be the man who can slap you and slap the demon out of you at home. Because you have already set these high benchmarks, you don't even have the humility to see the red signs. See, you met a guy, you say, oh, he's hot-tempered, so I let him go. What about the other 99 good attributes in him? You let him go because your mom told you that your dad was hot-tempered, so you're not entertaining another hot-tempered guy in your life.
Right.
So
Right.
the wounds that you put on your checklist, you need to heal yourself. If you don't heal yourself and get those wounds, neglect, abuse, absence, control, oppression, withholding, loss of love, affirmation, deficiencies that lead to profound lack of self-acceptance. You don't even accept your own self. So you want somebody to accept you. You're looking for you feel nobody accepts you. So you want somebody to accept you. So and let me tell you one thing. The moment you attract these things, and then people realize that you have this inner desire about any of this checklist, they will offer it to you to get your attention. And hide all the bigger issues. And at the end of the day, guess who suffers? You.
It's you. Dr. Charles,
And that's
the
why-
biggest. You go ahead, Dr. T.
So that's just why we need to heal from the wounds.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody had a gash as a child. So you get a big cut on your leg or your thigh or whatever. It's painful. It bleeds. It's uncomfortable. You want to get it treated. And sometimes getting it treated is also painful. We used iodine when we were younger. It will sting you, or the spirit will sting you. This can be likened to the healing process from the wounds that we go through as children, from our father wounds, from the abuse that Dr. Charles was talking about. So it is only after you go through that painful process of healing, what now happens is you have a scar. And the scar over time will fade. And then you become whole again. That big gash on your thigh is gone. So it is better to walk around with the scars. You will remember the pain, but then you are done with carrying the wounds around. So my take home for the audience today is that no matter what that wound is, don't walk around with a wound. We got to do the wound to care. As doctors, we know if we have wounds that are not treated, they get infected. You can get septic. You can be sick. You can end up in ICU. You can die.
Yes.
And that's why we need to treat our wounds.
I love this because, like I said, therapy. Be vulnerable. Get a trusted therapist. Open your heart. Say those inner child issues. That love you were hungry for a dad. I said all those things to that man, and that changed my life. And I continue to do the work because do I not get triggers? Absolutely, I do get triggers, you guys. I do fail sometimes in my relationship, but I am aware because I chose awakening. I'm choosing to be a better partner. I'm choosing to be a better parent. I am doing the work. To our viewers, check out this book. I read it. This is a book that is helping me. And I continue to check in with the partner I have, the openness, the vulnerability. So the beauty about healing, like you guys said, is that honest conversation. Do I like where my direction is going? A lot of times people, they are also pushing away friends. They are pushing away colleagues. They are pushing away anyone around them because they are bleeding to people who never cut them. We carry them. And you know what, Dr. Charles, let me wrap it up. There was actually one of the speakers who came here and said, and these wounds, we carry them so beautifully. And she said, now you become this girl that comes with that anger that I'm going to make something out of myself. And then now you become the CEO of the company. You become a doctor. You become this powerful person who becomes the meanest person to work with, who is so angry, even to the colleagues, or you bully your young ones that are working under you. Guys, this is interesting. So choosing us and choosing healing is something that is the best thing we can ever do. And it's going to bring pain. Guys, it's not nice to go back to those wounds and debride them. Who feels not pain there? So today, I honor myself and say, I have a post-traumatic success because I chose me. And I chose to be a better partner. I chose to be a better parent one day so that I don't bleed to my children. And when I get those triggers, I go back there. It doesn't get done. This is a journey. It doesn't get done. We get triggers. Go ahead, Dr. Charles.
I know you're wrapping up. What I want to leave everyone listening to us here is very simple. Make an intentional effort that you will be the end of father wounds in your family and your bloodline.
Very true.
Make that intentional decision. And in doing so, I want to share just quickly four barriers that you should be able to overcome. And that will bring your vulnerability out. And you'll be able to overcome that. The first one is pride. Pride. As Dr. Unati said, you are now so powerful that you are hiding that wound.
Those wounds.
The
Under those CEO roles, those homes, those big cars.
Yeah.
Yes, now I'm preaching here.
After identifying that pride could be a barrier to you, you should know that the perception of sin, if you're a Christian, also could be a barrier to you. The perception of sin, the sins of the fathers, the sins of this. You cannot accept father wounds. Don't accept it. That it's a sin in your family or a generational sin that has come upon you and it cannot change. No, that is a barrier you need to break. It's not true.
Yes.
It ends with you. And then the wound itself, you need to realize that you are injured. Dr. T said, you need to recognize that you are injured, period. And when you recognize you are injured, seek help. And then the last one, and this is the most powerful of all, know the lies. The lies that you have made truth in your life. It is time to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. Awesome.
Oh, I love this. This is therapeutic, Dr. Charles. Dr. Charles, this is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. T. As we wrap,
No,
I don't want to stop.
Just
I don't want to stop. I don't want to let you guys go. And I know that you're going back to work.
I think those 4 steps are just fantastic. Just fantastic. And if each of us could just rehash that every day, it would help us in the healing process for sure. Awesome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed, and our viewers here, I'm going to pull up their comments as we wrap up. And I'm sorry, like I said to our LinkedIn family, I'm unable to pull up your comments. And I'm going to look at one of my viewers. It's my cousin here, my sister. She said, indirect or direct negativity is poison. Absolutely. And I wanted to share this book with you guys as you are watching. Take it down, How to Do the Work. This is a book that I connected with. It's beautiful as I continue in this journey of healing, because like I said, we go back and forth in this, so it's up to us. I'm in the reparenting journey as I am going along in my life. So check out this book. It's a beautiful book. You'll like it. And of course, there's many other books out there. And then of course, Mizana, this is also my good friend. This is my childhood friend. She said, slap the demon out of you. Oh my gosh, girl. And my sister says here, she says, I choose awakening.
Yes.
I choose awakening. We talk about this all the time. And she said, relatable content. Absolutely. Guys, I am so blessed we had this discussion. Beautiful. It's so vulnerable. And again, to our viewers, thank you so much for being here. I'm really grateful for you. And I'm hoping when I bring these speakers, I'm bringing them for us to learn, to be awakened, and also make conscious decisions for growth. We choose growth. It doesn't come to us, to our lap. No, we choose. There's a choice here to be made. So if you want to heal, you want to live a wholesome life, a life that you were meant to have, a life that is filled with success. It doesn't mean that it's a perfect life. It's up to you. Today, we cannot blame our fathers and our mothers for their mistakes or whatever trauma they went through. Today, we are adults. We need to reparent our inner child. Each one of us has that inner boy, that inner child, that inner girl that is yearning for love and connection. And no material will fill these voids. No man or woman out there would feel this. All right. And I would love us to come back as a part 2, because we didn't even go to the part where younger girls now, out of looking for father figures, they chose older men who land on their lap and abuse them.
Yes.
We are faced with teenage pregnancies. We need to come back again, guys, with part 2, because this is a topic that right now, if you didn't know, in South Africa right now, during this COVID time, I don't know if I'm correct with the numbers, but I think over 1,000 pregnancies of kids that are below 15.
Ooh,
There's a problem there.
that's shocking.
So we have a world that is that filthy. So I would love our viewers here, take this, run with it, sit with it, absorb it, and see where you can change your life so that you can live the best life you actually were planned to have or you were designed to have. And you can be a better partner. You can be a better mother. You can be a better sister, to a better friend, to a better colleague. All right? So let's never let our wounds, people that never cut us, to bleed unto them. All right? So that you can start attracting that man that loves you, who will love your scars. Dr. T mentioned the scars that we come with. I embrace my scars with so much passion, because these actually experiences, they made me the person I am today. I'm proud of my background actually today, because I made a choice. I have chosen forgiveness. All right? I've chosen forgiveness, and I've chosen love to my dad, bless his heart. And honestly, I bless my mother, who raised me with love and compassion towards people and built that self-esteem. She was not a perfect mother, but at least take those affirmations Dr. T mentioned, Dr. Charles mentioned. Take them, run with them. Teach your kids to self-love. Love yourself. Love yourself. You know, a lot of times women, they stand in front of the mirror and they start bashing themselves. So work on that self-esteem. We don't stop working on ourselves. We don't. So do the work. Do the work. I left the book here, guys. As we close, thank you so much, Dr. Charles. Thank you so much, Dr. Tope. I want to bring you guys and to our viewers. You come back here next week. We do all these shows to empower ourselves. So please come back and enjoy your weekend. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless. Thank you, Dr. Charles. Thank you, Dr.
All right, Dr. T, nice meeting you.